Now in a more conscious way, in a more contemplative way, in a less meditative, transcendental way, look at the denial. There's something that was released inside, which is that resistance to the unity of the universal and the localized individual mind. Okay? It is that ego that I took the time to draw in this metaphor of the monster. Okay? Universal versus individualized mind. Quantum metaphysics is an experience to observe the natural reaction we have to unity. There is abandonment, rejection and guilt that holds us separate. Now this experience of denial, of emotion, and of course the 21 masks of the ego, if you take the time to learn them and study them and practice their dissolution. All the masks of the ego are inside that atomic system that we have. So there is an emotion experienced at the physical level that you will not feel like when you have an emotion in your emotional level. When you have an emotion, you feel an emotion like in your heart, in your guts, in something inside, and you have the emotion. When you have a thought, you have a thought mostly in the head and the ego, intellect, okay? Well, when you have an ego reaction or an emotional reaction at the level of flesh or physicality, it won't feel exactly like the emotion when you have it at the level of emotion. You'll feel something that seems to resist. And you'll say, oh, if that experience was felt at the emotional level, what would it be? So therefore, you're trying to integrate your emotions at the atomic level, at the genetic level, at the level where we live physicality. Okay? So look at that ego reaction. There's something right in your heart, can be in the abdomen, can be in the throat. I feel so much resistances. Depending on each of you that is actually experiencing it, because I'm living this with you. I'm accompanying you in the process. Okay? Who has the ball in the throat? Okay? Okay, rejection regarding the communication with others. Your atoms have that experience of rejection in communication with each other. Okay? Your cells, at the level of cell, there's atomic level, very small. There's a level of cells between them. Have ego reaction at a genetic level. Then these cells agglomerate in the form of organs. Organs have ego reaction towards the rest of the system. Now you as a whole being have ego reaction towards other beings, and the same way that us as many beings together, groups, have reactions against other groups, and all these groups together form a society that reacts to other societies and cultures. At every level we have that ego experience. It's the same. Okay? Keep looking inside you. That beast, that aggressivity against vacuity, which is the effort deployed originally by our divine nature to collapse into a localized world, to fall down from heavens, as we would say in old biblical language, to go from the non-manifested to the manifested, apparently tangible. What gives us the illusion of substantiality, what in Sanskrit we call dravyamaya. Dravyamaya is all this impression of being substance that we have. There's ego that maintains that. Okay? But it is not ego that created that. Ego maintains the separation. Ego maintains the feeling of separation and isolation from God. But it is not ego that created that. The ego was created at the same time than separation. At the same time of Dravyamaya, illusion of substantiality, our ego is a fruit of spirit and consciousness, the same way that mass and matter, cells, emotions, thoughts are. Okay? Everything manifested in every plane produced its equivalent ego at the same time, because it is held in place through that. This means if you master your ego and even dissolve the patterns of denial and rejection, you will not stop existing, because the ego is not what makes substantiality stay. It is the original mind of nature. The first thing that Brahma thought in Shakti, making love with her, if you want to take the parallel, it's not just Brahma, it's Brahm as a whole, the Godhead. When all that is divine went into the matrix to produce that substantiality, this is what allowed creation to be, and there is a level of thought that holds us together and keeps us as manifested, individualized beings. So your ego that is afraid to disappear, your ego that is angry at love, your ego that is angry having been rejecting from love, actually the ego was not rejected from love, but this is what he feels. Okay, he blames the other instead of looking at himself for his choice to individualize. Okay, even at the level of soul, where we chose to individualize, we have ego at this level. So an emotion felt at the level of the soul is not as tangible and obvious than emotion felt in your human heart. But there is something that looks like emotion at the level of consciousness, causality, and wisdom, the three planes of the soul. Okay? Look at it, feel it, and breathe it. This little anger. I would love to have a marionette, this, but we don't have it. And don't go and buy one. Okay? Just, oh, Maha said we're gonna have it. I'm going to Cracker Barrels and getting a marionette. No. We have these patterns inside us. Okay? Each time we contemplate ourselves, we seem to be tangible, but every part of us we're not paying attention to is in that inference experience, like in the inference pattern demonstration, in this feeling of being a wavy something. Okay? And we are made in such a way to be intangible, and we have the power inside, the core of our Brahma and Shakti. They're making love, and they're very tightly wrapped together, very intimately. Okay, there's something very that you humans would call sexual. Actually, sexual is what we have described as that animal nature. What this happens in the line between vacuity and the first plane of consciousness. Okay, we have the Kundalini experience inside us, right? Time to take a small break and look at everything that was awakened through this experience. We did step by step, went to vacuity, looking what resisted vacuity. As we gain experience going in vacuity, we also contemplated tangibility or apparent tangibility, which made it to, some people almost felt it as non-tangible, as just this experience. So there's a lot of things we contemplated in this meditation, a lot of aspects. Going to vacuity, what prevents us from going there, coming back from vacuity, looking at tangibility or appearance of it, from this space between our atoms or what constitutes us, gushing out energy into what constitutes us, okay? The Dravyamaya, the illusion of substantiality, and from there the ego reaction, the fear of dissolution. We got so much stuff awakened through this meditation. It will be good to do it again, okay? When you use the video to do that. And it's good to do it on your own with no video and to play with all these aspects. And then at the end of it, merge back the universal experience of vacuity to the localized experience of vacuity, the universal mind and the individualized mind. Through this, we call this the inner generator, okay? The contemplation of the inner generator, this thing that just goes very fast, very strong, very powerful, and it's like a ball that you cannot really define if it's where it's the core, it just goes very dense, and the further away you go from the core of that, when it reaches the surface of your body in front and in back, making that ball, you know, it's less dense, but it's just so powerfully moving, and you pay attention to the reaction, the movement of that outside you, and you breathe, and you stay focused. And if you want to play, you can go to the universe and back, but it's not your energy expanding to the universe. You're just contemplating that this movement is as large as the universe, because as a single atom, metaphorically, as a single atom, you have an effect on the whole of the universe. So you contemplate as far away as your effect is at the macrocosmic level, and as close inside at a microcosmic level. And that causes all these reactions of unity, the contemplation, the universal mind versus the localized individual mind. Okay? And that mind is not on the mental plane. That mind is the expanded mind, chitta. The Sanskrit chitta. You know, the expanded mind that goes from somewhere in the soul to somewhere almost close to the body. The very expanded mind. As opposed to manasa, which is the intellectual ability to understand and stuff like that. Okay? We want to contemplate that mind is not just intellectual computation. It's how the physical atoms think also. It's the mind of nature. It's not limited to human experience. Okay? We are arrogant and egocentric. We want everything to be like we do. If there's a mind in everything, it means that a rock thinks. Well, it doesn't think like a human, of course, but there is mind in a expanded meaning of what is mind. There is consciousness. But consciousness is not necessarily mind. Consciousness is not tainted. Mind has a program, a thought. Okay? So the difference between mind and consciousness is the ability to pay attention. I'm conscious, I know I'm here, so I'm conscious. That's consciousness. Okay? And mind is whatever I pay attention to, and what I have judged or labeled or associated. It's what I have computed or produced out of an intention. Pure consciousness is not label, it's not word, it's not communication, it's not anything that can be identified. Mind is everything that can be identified. So there is something that can be identified throughout the universe, the universal mind. And before there were humans to think, there was a universal consciousness that made the first set of thoughts, actually the first thought, which became the many, that allows the universe to stay functioning. Okay? So whatever we learn in quantum physics regarding if no one is paying attention to something, it's still not real, that's partially true. If no human will never look at something, eventually the mind of nature will make that decision, and something natural will happen according to the laws of nature, which is God's mind. It's Shakti's mind. Okay? The laws of nature is the mind of Mahashakti, or Vishnu Shakti, right? The universal mother. We say in Hebrew, Adonai Haaretz, okay? The Lord of the physical realm, right? I thought you'd like to know. Breathe. That was a lot of meditation, a lot of information, a lot of stuff just for you to pull this consciousness of what it is to exist and to resolve this fear of stopping to exist. This fear, if I keep going, will I cease to exist? When I enlighten, will I cease to have preference? If I conquer sexuality, will I have never sexual experiences again? I'm afraid of conquering desire because I'm afraid of not having desires because I love him. Go through these fears. You will be able to exist how you want in a much more expanded level of freedom.